What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Lowdown. Today, we are picking the perfect signings for Chelsea this summer. Coming up, do Chelsea need another striker as well as Liam Delap?
If you don't get him now, you're going to regret it.
Should they be going back in for Mike Maignan or targeting another goalkeeper?
I mean, he was just clearly the best option.
And is Jamie Gittens the right option on the left wing?
The price point is important because I need to know, are they a starter, squad player? I feel like both of these guys should be squad players.
That's right, everyone. After a week away, the Lowdown is back. And I'm joined today, in Doogie's absence, by Ollie Thomas and Matisse Armani. How are we doing, boys?
Very well. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, of course.
A pleasure. Very much looking forward to it.
It's an all-star cast. And as you've seen from the intro and the title, we're talking all things Chelsea. So we've got our main Chelsea man in the building, Matisse. Ollie's here as an independent adjudicator of sorts. I mean, you've got the Palace shirt on. So
Yeah, just make sure everyone knows I support Crystal Palace. Did you know we actually won the FA Cup this season? Don't know if I've actually mentioned that before.
How are you feeling? Are you still on cloud nine after that? Because I haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably only been a few days since I've stopped watching the highlights every day. Like, I now know it like the back of my hand. I know what my favourite bits are. I know the bits to skip. Yeah, it's just amazing to think. It's really sunk in now. Like in the week or so after, I'd watch everything back and be like, I can't believe that actually happened. Like, I hadn't emotionally processed it now, but now, yeah, I watch it back and I'm just like, wow, it was amazing.
And I guess the fact that you most likely are going to be playing in Europe next season now with the developments with Leon and John Textor, got that to look forward to as well. Speaking of competitions, Chelsea very much in one right now, Matisse. You've been getting up at 2 a.m. to watch games. How's that been for
the
you?
First time? I mean, I do like the competition in terms of you never see us or any European teams play, South American teams from Africa, Asia. So it's nice to see the clash of tactics, styles. You're finding new players that you maybe never watched before. And of course, the support around the world for the game and how passionate they are. When you see how important it is to them, it makes it even more important to you if it wasn't previously. And we were having like rivalry with Brazilian sides and they're gunning for us. So yeah, it's been good to watch. It's tough for sure because the intensity and the climate is really, we're not used to it. But yeah, I'm happy to be in the next round. I'm looking forward to what else happens in the tournament.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, yeah, certainly question marks over the United States and what kind of conditions players are going to be playing in the World Cup there next summer as well. But let's get into it. We are talking about Chelsea and we're picking the perfect signings for Chelsea this summer. Let's kick off on the left wing, I think, because by the time people are watching this, maybe this Jamie Gittens deal might be over the line or getting over the line. That's what we're reading at the moment. I'll come to you first, Matisse. Are you a fan of the Jamie Gittens move? If not, is there another left winger you'd be looking at? Do you think Chelsea would need an additional winger or an additional attacker in there? Where are you at with this?
It's tough because I think the news circulating Mudryk kind of plays a part as well. The fact that he's not going to be available for quite some time. I'm not sure if the ban time frame is confirmed, if it's going to be the 4 years or will be reduced, but it's going to be a while. That means for me, Chelsea need to look at two left-sided players. I think they're really heavily stacked and almost lopsided on the right, whether it be Esteval, Kendry Pires, who's just training at the Club World Cup, not registered. Cole Palmer likes to kind of pull out to that side on top of Madueke, Neto and Quenda, Portuguese under-21s as well. So many left-footed players that like to cut in. When you look at that left-hand side, they're struggling. They've had to shoehorn Madueke out there. We saw Nkunku kind of drifting out there a little bit last night. So Chelsea really need, especially with the system they play where they got touchline wingers and they don't really have any width from the fullback overlapping. They need someone out there on the left. Gittens is an option. I think for me, he's definitely got some raw attributes. Like his dribbling is really good. He takes quite a few shots. Ball striking ability seems to be developing in there. He's still only 20. So those inconsistencies and tendencies to be up and down, and even in the Dortmund team, I think he had a good start to the campaign playing out wide. New manager comes in, changes the system, goes 3-4-3, and he has to play as a more inside forward. He struggles. And I'm going to mention someone that maybe is still inconsistent as well in Fofana at Lyon. But I just feel like that price point, with everything that's going on at Lyon financially, obviously going potentially into League the relegation that's pending for them, as we discussed, I feel like he's probably at a cheaper price point. I feel like when you're bringing in a young player, the price point is important because I need to know depending on that, what to expect in terms of, are they a starter, squad player? I feel like both of these guys should be squad players. But Fofana just offers a better contrast, I think, to what we have on the other flank. I look at our Madueke, Neto, strength, pace, kind of running almost sometimes head down, and that awareness to kind of link up and still create, I want on the other side. And I think Fofana gives a better kind of distinction between what we have. And he looks like a really talented footballer. Plays with both feet, crosses with either feet, takes shots with both feet. So he's quite unpredictable in that way. And last time we got a Belgium winger from Ligue 1, it went all right. So I just like the way he plays, and I've seen him a couple of times Europa League. He's played United, Basel, Rangers. He looks like a talent.
Yeah, 100%. And like you say, with Leon's situation, maybe you'd be able to get a better deal there. He's got so much raw ability. He's a little bit younger than Gittens. Also, Gittens, an English player returning to play in England as well. There's going to be more spotlight on him at Chelsea. Also, the fact that he's coming from Dortmund, the Sancho comparisons will be there as well. And £50 million is it's not a small fee to pay for someone like Gittens. But like you say, with Gittens, I think that dribbling ability that he has really does seem to set him apart. Whether he'd get the same space to run into in the Premier League is another matter. But then at the same time, last season, the Premier League probably looked as much like the Bundesliga as it ever has done in terms of kind of end-to-end football, space for wingers to run into, fast-moving games. So I'm interested to see what will happen with Gittens at Chelsea. Whether they decide to still go for Fofana or still go for someone like Garnacho feels kind of unlikely, but you never know. Ollie, where do you stand on this? Do you think Chelsea, as well as Gittens, needs to be signing another left-sided player, or do they need more of an all-rounder? Because I know they've been linked with Kudus, they've been linked with Joao Pedro as well. Is someone like in that mould? Is that someone you'd be looking at too?
Yeah, I'm also excited by the Gittens signing. First of all, he's a really exciting profile, and as predominantly an England fan in this context, left wing is obviously something that England have struggled with a bit, and it feels like that's a role he could fill. For the suggestions I've going for today, I've kind of gone for players who clearly elevate Chelsea's level. And I think I could see a world where Chelsea get Gittens, Fofana, and another attacker. Obviously, it sounds like they've got quite a lot of money to spend. In shocking news, so always seem to. But the one thing that kind of worries me a little bit about Chelsea, depth-wise, is not just the left wing, but it's a big if. If Cole Palmer was to get injured, who can fill that? I know they kind of have right adjacent players in Esteval as well, but who can play in a number 10 position and really keep that level of quality? So the player that I suggested who can also play on the left is Xavi Simons, who I appreciate it's a lot of money. I think it would be 80 odd million, which is a lot of money, but equally he's a player who can help Chelsea get better now. If you put him in Chelsea's team and Chelsea's squad, he would make them a better team overall. He's obviously a bit of a different profile to Gittens, and that he's not an out-and-out winger as such, but he can definitely play there and has played there a lot, but he can also play in the 10 too. Of course, people will probably, people who doubt this would go, well, what about Nkunku, who came from Leipzig as well, and obviously hasn't had the impact, but I'd say they're slightly different. Simons is definitely more, I think, a bit more capable in terms of versatility and operating different spaces, and whereas Nkunku like to play obviously super advanced, up front almost a lot of the time. Simons is more of a midfielder who can play out wide, and he's still only 22. He's been around for ages, so he, if you put him in a big Champions League knockout game, I would feel comfortable having him in the team as someone who has been there, done it, scored in a Euro semi-final against England, for example. It's really difficult to get players in Chelsea's team who fit the age profile of really young, which they're obviously going to try and target across the board, but also has experience, has that superstar ability, and that's across other positions I've tried to do the same thing. I think Simons matches that quite well.
Yeah, I like that shout too. It's almost surprising that he hasn't been linked with a wider variety of clubs this year, given that there is that price tag on him. And also, comparing to Nkunku, it feels like Nkunku, kind of at the start of his career at Leipzig, was very much a kind of creative box-to-box kind of player, and then became kind of an auxiliary second striker. It was almost either he was being a creator or he was being a goal scorer, whereas with Xavi Simons, I think, fits that Cole Palmer mould a bit more of being that more of that maverick, more close to a classic number 10. Interesting options there. As for the links to someone like Garnacho and the links potentially with an Nkunku move to Man United that could facilitate that. What do you make of that? Would that be a move that would interest you, Matisse?
Not a fan personally of that swap deal. I just feel like Chelsea, if they're going to be a heavy possession side, which Maresca seems to want to cater towards more often than not, sometimes they do transition. I do think that suits Neto, Madueke, the pace that they have on the break, but he feels like a manager that would rather, keep the ball. I'm looking at wingers and I need them to have the decision making. I just feel like Garnacho for me he's very inconsistent in terms of his decision making, in terms of his final product. I'm not really sold on what level of talent he actually is. He does take a lot of shots. Sometimes he can score an incredible goal like we saw against Everton, but then he can be very wayward as well. And I feel like whatever surrounds him off the pitch in terms of maybe the ego or the off the pitch antics that we saw, kind of like the Rashford shirt, I just don't want that coming into the environment of Chelsea right now. I think that's the last thing we need. So yeah, for me, if I'm looking at wingers that are going to be possession based, you look at the way Desiree Doué kind of played in that Champions League final. You look at Elise, we were linked with a couple of years ago. That's, if you're going to be getting wingers, that's the kind of profile I'd be going more gearing towards right now, with what we already have, then going down the Garnacho route, which feels, again, Man United have been playing very counter-attacking, kind of play into space football under Ten Hag, and obviously have become a worse team that maybe commands less respect in recent years. That's where he's been thriving, in that environment, not going up against low blocks at Stamford Bridge and figuring out, solutions like that.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think especially, you need someone to be able to go past two players when needed. Garnacho doesn't really have that experience so far. I still think, based on last season, his ability has been, I think, undermined a little bit. I still think there's a good club for him out there, but yeah, Chelsea maybe not the best fit. Let's move on then to centre forward, seeing as we're in the attack. Now, this feels a little bit of a weird one. Liam Delap, of course, scored his first goal for Chelsea last night or this morning, depending on where we are. But Nicolas Jackson in the previous game against Flamengo, another bad sending off. I mean, what are your feelings about Nicolas Jackson? Do you think he could actually leave Chelsea this summer? Would you want to see him leave Chelsea this summer? We've heard reports that Juventus and Napoli would be interested, but probably can't afford him. Interest potentially from Saudi or elsewhere in the Premier League. Do you want to see him replaced, or would you like to see an additional striker come in, or are you happy with Nicolas Jackson and Delap as a front, as going for that striker spot next season?
I feel like it depends what the ambition is, because for me the next, I think Chelsea, they should be aiming to, at the very least, be in the Champions League next season a lot more comfortably than they were this season, whilst contesting with Champions League football, which is going to be a big step up to what we did this season with Conference League. And then they should really be trying to push on to challenge for the league as soon as possible with what they've outlaid in terms of the squad. But I feel like with Jackson, there's very intelligent things he does on the pitch, like the game against LAFC, where he kind of set up Neto with the ball carrying, drop deep, dribbling ability that he has to be a facilitator. But if you ask him to be the out-and-out striker in the box with his movement, whether it's aerially, finishing-wise, he hasn't developed or kicked on these attributes enough. So I am open to replacing him. I also think he's a bit of a loose cannon, as we saw. It was a really wild decision to make that tackle just coming off the bench, especially when you are banned in the Premier League and you are competing with Jackson, competing with Delap, and you need to kind of get that game time because you can't play the first Premier League game due to the sending off against Newcastle, and then to go and do that for me is ludicrous. And Delap also picks up his fair share of yellow cards. He picked up a yellow in that game where he was just left a late challenge on a defender as well. I'm really hoping that we're not going to be down to 10 men with these two all season. So the suggestion that I would have to replace Jackson in terms of a player that I think is of a similar profile, can drop deep, can link things, can still be a facilitator, but then I think his finishing ability has more potential, and his aerial ability there's more potential as Ekitike. Again, he also does miss chances at Frankfurt, and he also isn't necessarily guaranteed to give you 20 goals. But I see like a baby Isak in his game. When I watch him, I just get that vibe, whether it's the height of him or the way that he kind of moves on the ball, the close control, the finish against Tottenham in the Europa. I just have a sense that if you don't get him now, you're going to regret it in when he kicks on, and France have done incredibly well with the attacking options that they kind of have. in the national team, and they seem to have, I don't know what's in the water over there, but we got to get involved. We got to get someone out of that team. So yeah, I do like him as a player a lot.
Yeah, what do you reckon, Ollie? Are you in agreement? Is there anyone else out there that you'd rather go for from a Chelsea perspective?
No, he was my choice
Really?
as well.
No.
I agree. Like, he just feels like there's an opportunity there for someone to spend a lot of money potentially to get him, but you could have like the next big thing, literally big thing, I suppose. He's kind of like football's answer to Wembanyama in some ways, a big gangly French guy who has insane ability. And I think maybe the fact he's so good at dropping deep, and his obviously ball carrying and chance creation for a striker is really good. I know he's been linked to Liverpool a bit too. I feel like it would probably work better in a system like Liverpool's, but equally when you have a talent like that he has, I'm sure he could adapt easily. I think he offers, you say like Delap and Jackson are kind of, it's battering rams harsh, like they're real, like really good in transition, really physical players, maybe not quite as tidy as Ekitike is. The Delap signing I found interesting because I think for that price point, it's like objectively a good deal. And I guess like it fits Chelsea's brand of like, it's a young player who, they can develop and probably flip for more money. But part of me was like, well, I'd rather they got someone who was clearly a backup to Jackson and trusted Jackson more, or they got someone who was clearly an upgrade on Jackson and Jackson went down to a backup striker or, left wing option potentially too. I think it would be a bit weird to spend 20 odd million on Delap and then spend another 80 or 70, 80, whatever it will be on another striker. But that money on Delap's gone now. So if an opportunity arises in the market to get Ekitike, I would definitely do that.
Yeah, it is a funny situation, isn't it? It feels like with Delap, I guess it was that market opportunity, wasn't
exactly.
it? And if Chelsea didn't get him, maybe he goes to Man United because they were the next most interested party. I know it was only against Tunis in the Club World Cup, but he did look pretty bright. He does look distinctive from Jackson in that as soon as he picks up the ball, he's looking to get a shot off almost from wherever, and he has that at his locker. Whereas I think Jackson is far more someone who wants to try and get one-on-one with the keeper first or create space for others.
I also think someone like Ekitike, like you just mentioned, if you're kind of almost getting that left-sided playmaker that maybe you mentioned with Simons in terms of if you are getting a really wide winger, then getting that type of profile, that type of striker that does like to pull out to the left, it's kind of compensating for what you're missing in that gap. And I did see Maresca in the previous game kind of look at a 4-2-2-2, and he had Neto and Delap kind of as two strikers together, and he mentioned in the previous press conference that he might try Jackson and Delap together. So if he is looking at playing a front two at times, I feel like Ekitike is a perfect kind of supply line and a perfect secondary striker to a Delap, who, like you said, is more of a battering ram. And I'm just concerned with putting all that pressure on Delap as well in his first season to say, right, you're going to lead the line for Chelsea, because we kind of have seen that Jackson has halted his development, or he's kind of last season not kicked on. I think that caps us at a top 4, top 5 race, to be honest.
The Delap signing kind of worried me a bit. Amongst others, this summer of mid-table players, and Buemo potentially going to United or whoever it will be, Semenyo linked with moves away, obviously Delap. It is a lot of pressure to make that jump up, and Delap obviously he was Ipswich's best player last season, quite comfortably I think, and did a lot in a team that played very differently to Chelsea. But I agree, like, I didn't want, and I don't want the expectation of Delap to be to go in and like replace Jackson and be the guy who takes them to the next level, because I don't think he's quite ready to do that. But it's also not good for him to have that pressure. It's not good for Chelsea either. Like, you've got to manage these players well. But I guess even like playing in a front two, you automatically take some of that load off, right? Like you're literally sharing it with someone else. But I'm interested to see what role he plays in the squad. Like whether there is a clear hierarchy there, or if he is just rotating with Jackson or whoever it might be later in the season.
For sure, because I mean, there's not like, how much more upside do you need to get from whichever striker replaces Jackson, right? And is Delap, Jackson scored 15 goals in his first season, a little bit less last season, but yeah, you kind of have to score 20 in your first season if you're going to actually move the needle in that sense. But yeah, interesting with the 4-2-2-2. Of course, Ekitike played in a front two with Marmoush at Frankfurt. I mean, again, but in a more counter-attacking system too. Delap, used to a counter-attacking system, so I guess it just depends how quickly they adapt. But yeah, Ekitike seems to be our number one pick. Will be interesting to see if Chelsea continue to pursue that, whether Liverpool get ahead of them. Obviously, chat about Liverpool going for Isak now out of Newcastle, which is pretty scary. If they could get that going, I have my doubts. I guess another option I was going to suggest, again, maybe a little bit of a market opportunity. If Villa, in the next week do find themselves in PSR trouble, I know Emi Martinez potentially on his way out, Leon Bailey could be as well, but could be a shout going back in for Ollie Watkins if you do want that Premier League proven striker who for the next 2-3 years can bridge the gap, and then you have Delap come to the fore, used to dovetailing with different attackers as well. I would certainly be open to that from a Chelsea perspective, even though it goes against almost every kind of fibre. Speaking of which, let's go on to goalkeeper now, because this is an interesting one. Mike Maignan, around the same age as Ollie Watkins. Chelsea have seemingly passed up the opportunity to sign him, and would have been for a fairly good price as well, in my opinion. 20-25 million pounds. Milan were looking for, 1 year left on his contract. Of course, is at his best is one of the 2 or 3 best goalkeepers in the world. Hasn't necessarily showcased that consistently over the last 2 years, but we know that he can be at that level. Injury issues as well over the years, but I mean, Matisse would have been a clear upgrade on what you've got at the moment, right?
It felt painfully obvious to just do that deal, especially when you have Petrovic that's had a really good season at Strasbourg. Are you investing your time into him? Are you not? He wasn't registered for the Club World Cup squad. He's got a release clause in his contract. Mike Penders is another young goalkeeper that they're talking about. And these young goalkeepers, we know they kind of peak maybe in their late 20s, early 30s, which is exactly where the target we're talking about is. What a perfect kind of role model to kind of maybe follow on from, France's number one captain at AC Milan. The fact that Chelsea didn't get that deal done, and it for me, it felt kind of spooky at the beginning when I'm seeing an €8 million valuation for a goalkeeper of that stature, regardless of the year left. The goalkeeper market is really struggling right now. So you don't necessarily have loads of options to go off. If you want to improve on the ball playing side of things, and obviously Sanchez has had quite a few errors leading to goal or leading to chances this season, he can be quite a loose cannon. He does unsettle the back line, can be a great shot stopper and win you a game, but then can also have a massive brain fart and lose you the game. And I feel like Chelsea need more stability in that position. That's part of the spine that they've got to sort out. And the fact that they didn't, maybe they'll go on to get the deal done, who knows, but it doesn't feel like it's going in that direction. I just feel like Chelsea have signed a lot of young players, a lot of patience or project talk and 2026 going into future seasons, but just an opportunity to get someone that is able to handle the business here and now, improve that starting 11 and help the young players around you. Because I feel like when we're talking about young players, often they talk about, we had like a Reece James to an Aspilicueta, Tammy Abraham to a Giroud. You've got role models, you've got players that are professionals that have done it in the game. They help you develop, not just the coach and the development, the tactics or whatever, the players that you train with, the level going up. You hear it in interviews all the time. And I think the fact that Chelsea almost run from that, I think it halts their player development. And you can't have young players blocking young players as well. You can't have 2 21-year-olds really challenging for the same position for more than a season or two before someone figures out that they're not part of the plan. So having those older players to contrast to the younger players and handing over the baton, that's how football goes for me.
Yeah, for sure. And we look back to that Milan title-winning season as well. Their defence, it really was built on that defence, and that communication as well, I feel, would really benefit this Chelsea side. The kind of the connection he managed to build up with Tomori and Kalulu, Teo Hernandez, was so invaluable. And it feels like this Chelsea backline, I don't know, it feels like they were kind of beginning to really become something last season, especially with Chalobah and Colwell's partnership. I thought looked pretty impressive towards the end of the season. Cucurella, of course, had a great season. Reece James, just as long as he can stay fit, I think is pretty clearly there. I know Chelsea fans were really disappointed with Malo Gusto's performances last season, but the season before he did look good. So it does feel like Chelsea are only a signing or two away from having a very solid top four defence there. I mean, Ollie, I assume you were also kind of surprised, or maybe not surprised, but disappointed in Chelsea's lack of commitment to Maignan. Were there any other keepers out there that you think they should be targeting? Or
I mean, he was just clearly the best option. I think, like, I'm not a Chelsea fan, and even I was sat there reading that they were going to turn the opportunity down to sign him, and I was like, why? Like, I was getting annoyed on Chelsea's behalf because, as you said, I like the idea of young players, but you need people to add some experience, and that backline needs that. I think, like you said, they were getting there last year, but having someone like that in goal who has like been there, done it at the highest level consistently for such a cheap fee as well, it just works. And we spoke about bridging gaps with Ollie Watkins. He's exactly the same. Like they've got Penders, they've got. I mean, whether they decide to back Petrovic at all, I don't know. They can let Penders develop, have Maignan in goal, a really good goalkeeper, and then ease young players in. Like it just seemed to work so well, and I would love to know if there's some other reason they've not signed him. I know he got injured a bit, like he has had a bit of injury problems, but equally, like they have still got Sanchez, who would be a very good number two. He's played Chelsea's number one for season and a half, like, and he was getting better. Am I right in saying? Like, he was definitely getting better at the end of the season. Like he can be upgraded, but he's not a total liability. So you've got him to step in when needed to. It just felt like such a perfect dynamic, and it just fallen in Chelsea's lap, and they didn't take it for whatever reason.
It feels like as well, if Sanchez was the number two, then maybe if he did need to step in, those performances would maybe rise because he has more of a point to prove at that point. And you look at Liverpool last season won the league with Alisson out for a huge chunk of the season. Kelleher, we'll see how he does at Brentford, but he did a very admirable job at Liverpool, but no one's putting him in the top 5-10 goalkeepers in the world, are they? So, it does feel like they dropped the ball a little bit on that one. We'll see where we get to with that. Okay, staying on the defence then. Centre-backs, what are we thinking about here? Because I feel like Chelsea, they do have a decent array of centre-backs. We've seen Achimpong play at right-back as well in the Club World Cup. Looked pretty impressive last night, albeit against lower opposition. I'll come to you, Ollie, on this. Is there a centre-back that you think Chelsea should be going for, or is there someone else in the back line, a left-back, that you think they should be prioritising?
For me, the centre-back issue is one that stands out to me as a neutral. I know Trevor Chalobah had a good second half of the season, but having watched him at my team, Palace, he was in our back three. He was probably the worst of the three, and that's no slight on him because Lacroix and Guehi were both brilliant last season. But he can definitely be upgraded, in my opinion. And he's also versatile enough. You can keep him around, and like he's homegrown. Just have him there in the background, or cash in if you want. I'm normally totally against advertising anyone buying any of Palace's players, just morally. But it's become pretty clear that Marc Guehi is going to leave, I think, whether it's this season or next. And I can't believe he's not been linked to Chelsea more. I know a lot of the chat right now is Liverpool, and obviously that'd be an amazing move for him. And if that's what he wants to do, then so be it. But he just fits everything that Chelsea need in that he's only 24, so he's young. He has played, he's an England regular, played at the Euros for England all the way up to the final, was one of our best players. He's captained Palace for 2 years now, captained us to an FA Cup win. Like he has experience and youth, and he plays with such composure. I think he complements Colwell really well in that he can be a bit more passive and kind of sweep up while Colwell can step up. He's homegrown, he's Chelsea Academy, and you talk about market opportunities, you could get him for a really good price this summer. Partly because Chelsea also, I think, they have first refusal, definitely. So they can match any bid that someone puts in, and he'd have to go to Chelsea, so obviously assuming he wanted to. But I think they have a sell-on too, so they could get him for a cheaper price, because obviously they'd sacrifice the sell-on. Again, it just seems there's so many transfers. I'm like, guys, he's right there. He's right there.
That's why we're not doing it, because it's too obvious.
Too obvious. Not niche enough. He just ticks every box. And I would love Guehi to stay at Palace for the rest of his career, but he's obviously not going to do that. And that just feels like a good move for him. And from a personal standpoint for Guehi, he can go back to Chelsea and prove that they were wrong to let him go originally, and he's ready to play for them. I think if the current centre-back partnership is Chalobah and Colwill, Guehi starts. Like he replaces Chalobah. I know he's played left side for Palace, but he played right side for England, did that really well. That just feels like the perfect fit for me.
If you were Guehi though, and it was Liverpool and Chelsea on the table, especially given you don't know what's going to go on with Konate's contract at the moment, would you? Who would you prefer?
I guess it depends on timing, right? Because obviously it's a World Cup year. Guehi has to play regular football. I mean, Liverpool fans will and have disagreed with me on this. I do really believe he could go there and properly challenge Konate. Like, they're very different centre backs, but Guehi, I don't think people appreciate how good Guehi is. Honestly, I think because he's not this modern mould of like a big physical presence who's hyper aggressive and like plays all these line breaking parts. Even though he does do that, he's much more just consistent, solid, reliable. And when you're playing for someone like Palace, it's difficult to stand out to the average fan when you're doing that. But obviously, it's no coincidence he's being linked to all these big clubs. So it depends when he wanted to leave. I think if we wanted to get out this summer and Palace got a good offer, I think Chelsea works. But I guess long term, Konate, year left in his contract. Konate, if he goes, that's Guehi might be thinking, well, that spot's mine as of 2025 or 2026. Sorry. So player preference definitely might matter here.
Yeah, I mean, Matisse, are you in agreement? Is Guehi, would he be the first choice to bring back to the club, or is there another centre back you'd be looking at?
It's definitely on the list. I think is much more palatable, I think, to talk about him as an option now that he's not available for 70 million, or because that's initially what was getting pushed back for Newcastle, for Tottenham, and I was like, that's a lot of money. But we've seen 35s, 40s. It's like you said, market opportunity. It makes sense in a lot of areas. The only box for me that he doesn't tick, and maybe you obviously watch him every week, but aerially, is he strong enough? Because I feel like Chelsea centre-back pairings, aerially, they're not very strong. The starting 11 pairings. The best aerial defenders are maybe Disasi and Badiashile and Tosin. They don't start. And I've gone for more aggressive, because I actually don't trust Colwell's aggressive side enough to partner him with Marc Guehi. He does show it sometimes. He gets into little scraps and tiffs on the pitch and stuff, but even goal scoring side of things, he got that goal against Nottingham Forest the last day, but he doesn't score from corners. And I feel like Van Dijk with Guehi, I get it. I get the matchup. With us, I feel like Romero at Tottenham, and this is a wild shout. Wild shout. But Romero at Tottenham, he ticks a lot of boxes, and I know
going to Dreamland.
I know he didn't have no one had a great year last year for Tottenham, really. Maybe Brennan Johnson, and that's it statistically. But Romero, if he's wanted by Atletico Madrid and Diego Simeone, I want to know why. Because I feel like that type
it's pretty obvious why.
Exactly. and that listen, it is like bringing chaos into the club, and it is a risk, and it's that Rudiger kind of aggressive nature that I'm kind of searching for ever since we lost him. Someone that has experience playing in a high line, somebody that is good in the air and on the ground if he, doesn't get himself sent off or pull anyone's hair or stamp on anyone. But for me, he's a very good footballer as well, like very good on the ball. And I feel like he's one of those players that 100% it could go either way. But I don't think he's motivated to be at Tottenham last season. I think he wants to go. He's got a couple of years left on his contract. Like I said, Atletico Madrid, there was links there. If you put him at another club and he's almost given that leadership role and he's motivated to try and win majors or trophies and play in the Champions League consistently, which is what we're trying to get back to, I definitely see a massive elevation potential in his game where he's gone from a bit of a wild card to he's a really good centre-back, like one of the top centre-backs. And that's what I'm kind of gambling on, him making that jump that I think he can make. But yeah, it's very difficult to find an aggressive centre-back that's good in the air, that's good on the ball, like ticks all those boxes for me. So that's why I've gone with him.
And he's still young as well, isn't he, Romero? He's you got to think of Chelsea's transfer strategy. He would broadly fit that, maybe on the older side, but it's not like he's a veteran by any means. And
after all, we're not trying to be exactly like Chelsea here. Even if he is a bit on the older side, like we all kind of want Chelsea to be signing more experience. I had to turn down
Barcola, Rodrigo, Leao in this conversation. I had to leave them all out of it, so I've got to go crazy at some point.
I mean, whether he'd actually make the switch from Tottenham to Chelsea feels
I can see him.
I mean,
that Carlos Tevez, Westfield banner. I can see it in him.
Mate, imagine him rocking up to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium as a Chelsea player. That would be.
But does it not feel like something that he would do? No, like.
Well, I mean, he certainly doesn't shy away from something like that, does he? But yeah, it just still feels like if Atletico Madrid are on the table. I think he'd be more suited to a Simeone system in some ways, just because he likes to also play with a back three. I know, to be fair, Chelsea do like to kind of form a back three in possession as well, so maybe there's something there. But I loved Romero when he was at Atalanta, just being that last man, kind of on the halfway line, just able to sweep up anything and then kick off an attack again. I would love to see him really kind of take on that role again in a system which is almost kind of built around him. So yeah, would certainly be a really, really interesting partner for Levi Colwill, and would probably give Colwill that, help him kind of find his aggression a little bit more as well. However, Guehi definitely seems like the more realistic.
100%.
I'm keen for Chelsea to get someone to help Colwill out. I'm a really big fan of Colwill. I think he could be really good. He just needs someone to
guide him a little bit. Yeah.
Like maybe, if Colwill was Colwill, I don't know, 3-4 years ago, and he's playing with Thiago Silva or with Rudiger, like he could be so good. I really want him to get unlocked. When he was at Brighton, even though obviously Palace fan, don't like Brighton, I was watching him. I was like, damn, like this guy is like next up, but he's just not quite found that yet.
Yeah, and he is still. It's easy to forget how young he is. He's got so much Premier League experience, but yeah, it's very easy, I think, to judge, especially a young English centre-back coming out of a big club like Chelsea, having thrived at Brighton as well. The expectations are so much there, and a bit like what you're saying about Guehi, it's like he did showcase early on that ball-playing ability, that he's more of a flashy defender than someone like Guehi, but suddenly in this day and age, it's like once you showcase that, you're kind of expected to do that all the time. And to be a leader back there for Chelsea at this age it's a tough job. So there we have it. Those are our perfect signings for Chelsea this summer. Let us know what you made of them in the comments below. Who would you sign if you were Chelsea this summer? Who do you want to see come through the door at Stamford Bridge? Thanks, guys, for joining me today. Ollie, where can the good people find you if they want to see more of you?
Ollie Thomas on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. TalkCPFC is the actual handle.
Nice. And Matisse?
Just MAH on YouTube, 3 letters, and you'll find all my content there. Yeah.
Love it. Thanks so much for joining us, guys. And we'll see you next week.